Navy Seaman FAE2 Thomas Lee Tiglass of Manistique. Jenks and Tiglass joined 264 other service members from Michigan whom are on the moving wall. The veterans on the wall and those who are here today in Manistique made a commitment to protect our nation. They have served with honor, courage, bravery, and valor, and we thank them for their service to our country. Sincerely, Carl Levin. Thank you.
I am delighted to be here with you this afternoon on behalf of your Senator, Debbie Stabenow, who is married to a Vietnam veteran, as am I. And so we really, beyond even the recognition of today's event, certainly want to recognize the efforts of the folks that put this event together to bring everybody together and recognize this part in our history that was so significant. And on behalf of the Senator, I bring you greetings, and I have a letter from her that I would like to read to you. I appreciate the opportunity to participate in today's event honoring the Vietnam Moving Wall. This is a very powerful way for the Manistique community to remember and honor our Vietnam veterans. The Vietnam War impacted the lives of our families, communities, and nation, and the wall is a visible reminder of the sacrifices that have been made to protect our freedom. Thank you to everyone whose efforts made it possible for the community to experience this moving memorial. Sincerely, Debbie Stabenow, United States Senator. Thank you for letting me be here on her behalf.
Good afternoon, everyone, and again, thank you for the invite. I have to tell you, it's quite humbling to even be asked up here to do something like this, but I just want to share real quick with you that, as serving in the House of Representatives on the Lansing level and watching everything that's unfolded and all the things that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, I'm often reminded when I come to something like this, when you look at all the things that are going on with the protesters and with people that aren't protesting, but people that go to church, people that don't go to church, I'm just reminded that everything like that we get to do, it's all because of a veteran or a soldier that served right from the beginning of this country. Without them, there would be no freedom for us the way we know it today. And so I just want to thank everybody for coming out to show respect and honor here today to the fallen soldiers that are on that wall. And I want to thank any veterans that might be out there for their service, because without you, we don't have the right, and we don't have the rights and the freedoms that we have without you. And I think that I live in the greatest country on the face of the earth, and I know that it's that way because of the service of our military people and their dedication. So thank you. Have a great day, and God bless America.
Over 6 years ago now, a few of us fellow veterans got together and tossed around the idea of creating a Veterans Memorial Park in Delta County. I am proud to say that with the collaborative help of so many others, our dream has come true. Today we are near completion of this memorial park in Gladstone. The focal point of this park is an impressive granite wall, similar to the wall behind me we see here today. And the wall memorializes all Delta County residents who gave the ultimate price for our freedoms from the Spanish-American War to present. Last week, I visited this wall, and I could still see where an individual tried in earnest to scratch out a loved one's name. I remember we hadn't had the wall up for a full year when someone tried to do this. While I don't blame my fellow committee members for wanting to seek out this individual and hang that individual, as they said, from a flagpole, I do remember telling myself that there is a bigger picture, a sadder issue that we need to take into account. You see, as the story goes, a local young man, like many before him, graduated from one of our local high schools. And shortly after graduation, he and his father had words. And he left home, not knowing where to go, what to do, or how he was going to make a living. He volunteered into military service. Not too long after that, he was whisked away to a war called Vietnam. Some 40 years later, that vivid picture of an elderly father with his tears still in his eyes and still blaming himself for his son's death as he tried to scratch that name, his heir's name, from that wall, pains me. Let me close with an image of a famous painting called Reflections by Lee Tedder. If you haven't seen this painting, I would urge you to please go home and look it up. The painting depicts a man standing in front of the Vietnam War Memorial. With one hand in his dress pocket and the other touching the wall, there is a reflection that comes from within the wall itself. The reflection is of soldiers, perhaps his buddies, outstretching their hands towards this man on the outside of the wall. I have to admit that the first time I saw a print of this painting, it took my breath away. So eloquently, this picture portrays why we are here today. So eloquently, this picture stands as a stark reminder that as hard as war is, we must never forget. So eloquently, this picture reminds us that today we are at war. And this picture makes me want to shout to our leaders, do not let the prey of politics skew your vision of what is right and what is just. Do not let those that have served us go unserved. Let's not forget. I thank you all. God bless you. And may God bless all those who have
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
During these last few days, we've been paying tribute to the men and women who have paid the price of freedom. You know, sometimes we forget that behind every name on this wall is a grieving family, a grieving friend, and a grieving fellow Vietnam vet. Many endured and still endure mental and physical trauma. And we never should forget those who served, nor do we want their service to be in vain, no matter what war or what conflict that they may have served. There are many who endured long, painful, torturous years as prisoners of war, and as reflected by the thousands of names on the wall, those who paid the ultimate price. A few years back, President Reagan at a Memorial Day service quoted part of a speech from Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln gave this talk at Gettysburg in 1863. And Lincoln reminded us that through their deeds, the dead had spoken more eloquently for themselves than any of the living ever could. And that we living could only honor them by rededicating ourselves to the cause for which they so willingly gave a last full measure of devotion. And President Reagan, after that speech, went on to say that that's especially true today, as it is in our time here today. For in our minds and hearts is the memory of Vietnam and all that conflict meant to those who sacrificed on the field of battle and for their loved ones who sacrificed here at home. It was many years after the Vietnam War ended that when we, those of us who were not in that conflict, finally realized how we so mistreated those veterans returning home. Those who were physically wounded, those who came back with emotional scars, and those young men and women who returned, luckily without noticeable injuries. We are today learning about the wounded of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan and about the hidden injuries that have occurred, called post-traumatic stress syndrome. But more importantly, we as a nation have learned that we always need to honor those who serve, and that my generation especially needs to offer an apology to those who served in Vietnam for the way that they were treated. The suffering is over for those whose names are on this wall, but for their families and for those who survived but came home with scars, Vietnam is not over for them. They cannot rest until they know the fate of those they loved and watched march off to serve their country. Our dedication to their cause must be strengthened with events like we have experienced these last few days, bringing to reality the awful cost of trying to make us and the world a safer place. This wall brings this to a reality. We cannot close the door on Vietnam. There are no last chapters. This book cannot be closed, and no final memories until all of those who were left behind are accounted for. The wall reflects the names of those, and we cannot rest, nor should we, until all of our sons and daughters have been returned home to their families. If you have applause, give it to those whose memory of those souls we honor today, who were so violently destroyed, so that we as individuals might say what we want, worship how we please, raise our families as we ourselves see fit. Think about that for the rest of this day and this week. And next time you come to an area that has a Memorial Day service, bring others from among your friends, your neighbors, and your churches. And most important of all, make sure your children and your grandchildren come to learn their heritage and the price that was paid for it. And if they want to know that price, walk them down this wall.
And read the names of our fallen comrades. But first I would like to start off with a short paragraph, and I'll lead right into the names. You came home. People spat upon you. They called you all sorts of names. Now, you are finally getting the recognition you deserve. I'll be starting in county order, starting with Elger County. Michael Frazaka, Munising. Bruce Michael Johnson, Wetmore. William Vincent Moore, Autrain. Martin Roy Nemi, Sundell. Roger Lee Tallman, Munising. Baraga County. Belair John Michael Baraga. Avis, David Emmanuel Pelkey. Picano, Terrence Allen Baraga. Rajala, Stanley Robert Watton. Chippewa County. Bell Harrison Sault Ste. Marie. Belinsky, James Gerald Stalwart. Bumstead, Donald Royce Brimley. Cousinal, Joseph Walter Brimley. Desamore, Henry Sault Ste. Marie. Howard Charles Vincent Brimley. King Ivan Klaus Kinchlow. Mackey Frank Rudolph Fibry. Meehan Michael Allen Dafter. Polisky Michael Charles Sault Ste. Marie. Smith Larry James Sault Ste. Marie. Soames Ronald Lee Sault Ste. Marie. Verrett Kenneth Emery Sault Ste. Marie. Wirt Dennis Arthur Sault Ste. Marie. Wedra Millen Chauncey Sault Ste. Marie. Delta County. Angelum Ames Gladstone. Cook James John Gladstone. Craig Bruce Keith Escanaba. Philin William Henry Escanaba. Johnson Richard Arnold Escanaba. Lacoste Jimmy John Rock. Lewis Richard Kenneth Escanaba. Morris Robert John Escanaba. Pepin John Frederick Escanaba. Prohl Paul Allen Rapid River. Russia Gary Edward Escanaba. Stewart Charles L. Leroy Jr. Gladstone. Stockholm Dwight Ross Gladstone. Dickinson County. Fall Clifford Leonard Norway. Gerstner Ronald Edward Segola. Haltwist Edward Charles Norway. Matchett James Stephen Kingsford. Paul Gary Michael Norway. Wender Terry Arthur Iron Mountain. Gogebic County. Randall Jack William Ironwood. Johnson Carl Irving Wakefield. Lacoste Reginald Joseph Wakefield. Negro Daniel Lee Wakefield. Shermos John Daniel Ironwood. Houghton County. Batten Darrell Jean Mason. Cavis David Jude Hubble. Capo Patrick Brian Calumet. Fredrickson Alan Douglas Houghton. Capina Marshall Frederick Calumet. Colca Edward Lewis Hancock. Lena Stephen Paul South Range. Long James Robert Hancock. Marcotte Dennis Wilford Hancock. Moylan Dale Burton Hubble. Musich John Paul Calumet. Ancala Philip Gordon Baltic. Pelosima David John Aletic Mine. Percola Paul Henry Calumet. Ralt Williams Clifford Lake Linden. Sherota Robert Lewis Jr. Houghton. Iron County. Anderson John Perry Iron River. Black Ralph Roland Kristen Falls. Jacobson John W. Sr. Crystal Falls. Mackey Glenn Arvid Iron River. Pacula Thomas Vincent Stonewall. Ramonde Leo Angelo Jr. Caspian, Koski Jean Raymond Mohawk, Luce County, Rutsky James A. Newberry, Hetrick Gerald Everett Newberry, Nesbitt Ronald Charles Newberry, Taylor Donald Thomas Newberry, Thorson Wallace R. Jr. Newberry, Williams Clifford Dan Newberry, Mackinac County, Dankowski James Hillary, Mackinac Island, Fenley Francis James Curtis, Marquette County, Arbogast Carl Francis Jr. Marquette, Bell James Edward Marquette, Carter Terry Alfred Marquette, D'Angelo David Joseph Nagani, Derek Robert Allen Marquette, Haley Gary Robert Marquette, Kelsky Keith Nishigami, Seabloom Earl Francis Ishmi, Menominee County, Van